Hello.
Good morning. Good afternoon,
Hi.
Sabina.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and good morning to you.
Thank you. Nice to
Same here. Same here. Yeah. Helen is sick, so she will not. She has running some fever, and not feeling well, so she's in bed. So she will not be able to join us today, unfortunately.
so sad that she's feeling that poorly, and tell her that I'm hoping that she recovers super quick.
I will let her know. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for letting us know too. So sad.
Yeah.
Do you live close by? Helen, are you two
Yes, she actually moved a few months ago, and she lives like I don't know, 10-minute walk away. Yes,
Oh,
it's
fun.
very
Hi,
close,
Julie.
very close.
Yeah, I had no idea until you shared with me that she was your angel baby. I love that you guys are so close.
Yeah,
Love.
yeah.
Hey, Julie, how are you?
Hello,
Hi,
hi.
Julie. Hello.
Hello, ladies. Yeah,
Nice.
sorry, I'm like a minute late. Breakdown.
You want to clear, Julie?
Yes, let's get back
Okay,
into.
go ahead.
Oh my God. So what's underneath? Forgetfulness, not setting myself up, not making clear intentions. Yeah, not being intentional, and just realizing, oh my God, this is now, and then sourcing obviously a tech delay. So if I go, but that's very shallow. So what's more underneath? It's like uncertainty, like being floatiness in my own, what am I doing today? Ungroundedness.
And what's the benefit of being ungrounded and not clear?
Avoidance.
What's the benefit of being in avoidance? What do you get to not see?
I get to not see what gets, like, the what gets to be done. I get to not see, avoid being in my contract, like staying in, I'm gonna say self-judgment as well, of the comfort of of underperforming and beating myself up for it.
So if you're not in your contract, what do you get to be right about?
I get to be right about my own about my own limitations, collecting evidence. That when I'm on my own, like, unless I'm in a HCL container, I can't, I'm not able to, to stay as committed, etc. So collective evidence that over time the discipline is fading, etc.
Okay. And what prices do you pay when you collect evidence about your attitude?
I'm, obviously generating more of it, self-fulfilling prophecies. So disappointment, self-beat-ups, self-esteem, like the usual suspects.
You feel like shit about yourself?
Yeah.
Kind of a big price. What prices do other people pay?
Well, uncertainty as well, as in like like unreliability and like frustration and disappointment and possibly anger. Yeah, usual suspects as well. And having their time wasted. So frustration, irritation.
So Julie, just notice in the usual suspects, which you've said twice, that means you get to deflect so that it's no big deal.
Okay.
Prices are paid. And you're like, I'm used to paying them. No big deal, usual. So as long as we don't get under it and get truthful with it, we will continue to perpetuate it because, I pay the price. It's no big deal. Usually I pay these prices. It's just another day in paradise.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. So I recommit to being my contract, and knowing that I can switch in my contract whenever I want. This doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be difficult. It is easy. So reconnecting with that.
Yeah. What is your contract?
I'm a powerful, authentic, loving leader.
Yes, you are. What's your stretch?
Flash dance.
Yeah. Hello. She didn't stop or give up.
Yeah. Yes. True. Thank you.
Thank you. Because we have such a petite pod today, let's also introduce ourselves verbally. I know it's one of Savina's favorites. Go ahead, Savina.
I am a loving, connected, authentic woman, and I am a butterfly.
Yes, Savina, I thought of you on Sunday. I was at a butterfly farm. Yeah, they had this beautiful little gift shop and there were butterflies everywhere. I was like, I know a butterfly.
Thank you.
I'm an open, courageous, passionate woman. I am J-Lo.
Dia Selena, would you like to go next? What's your contract? Who are you?
I am connected, courageous, powerful woman.
Yes, you are. And your stretch?
Butterfly.
Yeah, that's right. Awesome leaders. Love it. I'm a loving, connected, courageous woman. I'm JLo. All right.
Hurrah.
So here we are. Yes, awesome. So it's great to see you guys again. Thank you for being here and being in your leadership and committed to your transformation, being in the tools and being in the work. Who would like to give us a brief synopsis of last week's conversation on rackets? Powerful. Who's got notes that you'd like to summarize?
Shared mine.
It was so generous of you. Everybody was gulping it up. Yeah.
It was you told us all that.
Happy to.
Yeah, I remember the rackets. So we were talking about rackets, let's say, when we run a racket, and we identified 4 main rackets. So the first one was a victim. So being a victim, kind of not like taking energy, not giving energy, but taking energy. And the question, let's say, that supports us in identifying whether we are running that racket is, are we in generosity? Yes, are we in generosity? That was the first one, the victim one. Then we had the second one was powerless. So it's out of your hands. You are not able to do anything about it. You are always late because there's always something that is, let's say, causing that, right? It's out of your hand. You are powerless. And so it's a kind of it's a control. No, sorry, that was the control racket, the control, right? That was the control. But it can be also like dominating, manipulation. And that was, let's say, we ask for that for controlment. We ask, I surrender it, let's say. That would help us or support us in identifying this racket. So we have victim, we have control. The third one was judgmental or judgment. It's black and white. It's my way or the highway. It's a very, let's say, fixed energy, no way to go. And the way we ask for it is, am I open? Am I accepting? Right? That would support us. And the fourth one is the one I mixed up. That was the powerless one. So it was out of my hands, being late, nothing in direction of Julie. But we were remember, Julie, we did this together with Gina, you and Liz. Yeah. So the fourth one is the question to identify is, am I responsible? So am I in my contract? That was in a nutshell.
Beautiful, Sabina. That was such a wonderful encapsulation of all of that. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything to add on what we talked about so far on rackets?
I wrote down that nerds and rackets aren't the same thing. Nerds are our way of being, and rackets are, I wrote how I behave or express behaviors that can be managed. And then, of course, underneath the racket is a tender spot.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. We're going to talk tender spots today. So good. Anything else to add on rackets so far? Julie, I know this is one of your favorite topics.
Racket sandwiches, deckers, triple deckers.
I didn't mean that you run them. I just meant you like this topic. This was a good coaching tool that you really.
I know it's amazing. It's a great reminder as well, because I remember I noticed I had forgotten the questions, how to identify them.
Yeah, those questions came out by our talk together.
Yeah,
I hadn't been taught. We just generated them. You guys, well, how do I? Yeah, that was delicious. We created that together. Yeah, love that. Thank you for bringing that back around, Sabina. Right. Go ahead, Julie. Did you have more?
Yeah, because I had realized over time that, like even the nerd racket was not always like, clear. And then like through the last round of staffing, I was like, okay, like, so, and I don't know that it is, but like for me, this is something that works, is like, I imagine like my nerd as this persona with a combination of usual rackets, and like it is like it paints like some sort of a persona that gets on autopilot, either in controlment or like, because that's my, mostly this one or that one, but like, it gets like a set, a crystallized, it's like crystallized racket that can transform into some sort of a persona that it's easy to jump in, like, it's a racket jumpsuit of sorts.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really valuable to recognize the distinction between nerds and rackets. And it was a tricky one for me for a long time. And I think it's because the racket that I was running most often is also a way of being. I'll tell you about that in a second. So for those of you who remember this, awesome. If you don't have this tool yet, the way to recognize our nerds is to write your contract down on a piece of paper. We did this together. And then directly opposite the way of being of your contract, write its opposite. Loving, what would be the opposite of loving? Open, what would be the opposite of open? In both loving and open, just using those two ways of being just because they're top of mind. Can you see that the opposite of loving and the opposite of open could be judgmental? Right.
Oh yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So in my contracts, loving is the first way of being. Loving, connected, courageous woman. The opposite of loving could be judgmental, right? It could also be other things too, because love encompasses a lot. So I personally had a challenge recognizing whether I was in my nerd or running a racket, because judgmental is also a racket, and it could be the opposite of me being my contract. So it took me a minute. Doesn't have to be that complicated. But if you're still not clear whether you're running rackets, and the questions that Sabina outlined for us don't create clarity for you on whether you're running a racket, then you could also look at your nerd list and then decide, am I nerdy right now, or am I racketing? Am I nerdy, or am I running a racket? So again, to identify your nerd's always your nerd. It doesn't go away. Rackets are not always your racket. They can transform. Their behaviors, their learned behaviors. They're learned behaviors that cover up a tender spot. Once the tender spot's addressed and loved on, there's no tender spot to cover. So there's no need for the racket. It can dissipate. But your nerd's always your nerd. You could easily flip to the other side of your coin at any time. And then the choice is to flip the coin back over and be your contract instead of its opposite. That would be a nerd party. Yes, Dioslina.
The way of being, we can always choose the way of being. And you say that the behaviors, the habits, behaviors, they can change too, right?
Yes. So you can always choose a way of being. You get to choose your contract or not choose your contract. You get to choose your contract or you get to choose your nerd. We're always at choice. And rackets are a behavior. Sometimes they feel like we don't have a choice. Depending on what that tender spot is that we are guarding, that racket can feel like it's got its own life, like we don't really have a choice.
I'm dealing with this. So the habit became for a belief, or for the habit. So the habit, something I say and I believe, and then became a habit.
It's possible. Yeah, we're going to talk about the tender spot today, about what's under the racket. And
Okay.
yes, it could be something that we feared, be a belief that we had. It could be a survival mechanism. In any instance, it's a tender spot. There's something under that racket that we're ferociously guarding. So as Julie called it, we stack a sandwich on top of it, double decker if we have to get enough barrier between the outside world and that tender spot being potentially harmed or provoked. Yeah, so we'll dig under that for sure today. Okay, so just for now, are we clear on the difference between rackets and nerds? Are you 100% clear on that? Okay, that's important to recognize. Okay.
Can I just paraphrase to make sure that I have total clarity?
Sure.
The difference between a nerd and a racket, the nerds, they're always in the back of our boat. We just decide if we're going to let the nerd steer us or not.
Mm-hmm.
And the nerds don't have anything to do with habits and beliefs. I'm asking a question.
They don't typically know. Nerds are your nerds.
And they're just akin to who you are.
Sorry, Sharon?
They're just akin to whoever you are.
Yeah, you have the potential.
Yeah, I cannot see your face.
I'm sorry. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can.
It's because I picked up the phone. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Thank you. Now, when you talk about, like, can my nerd be like procrastination, delay, perfectionism? Would that be a nerd?
It could be. Those things tend to also be racket driven as well. Here's what I will recommend, Sharon. What we did together as a group, I'm not sure if you were here that week, is write out your contract. 1, 2, 3, 4 stacked, like you're making a list. And to the right of all of those ways of being, including woman or leader, whatever's the last one of your contract, to the right of them, write its opposite. One way of being opposite. That list, that 4 way of being list, tends to be your nerd.
Oh, wow. Oh, that simplifies it.
So can there be other nerds? Of course, just like there's other ways of being. Ours, though, my contract is my way of being. Do I have access to all the other ways of being through my contract? Yes. Your nerd is your nerd, which is the opposite of your contract. Do you have access to all the other nerds on the planet? Of course, we all do, just like we have access to all the ways of being of all contracts. but your nerd is your nerd. Your contract is your contract.
That clears it a lot. Now to rackets. That was very clear. Now to rackets. According to what I'm hearing is that rackets can become habits and they can become their learned behaviors.
They're either
through experience.
Pardon me?
Through experience.
No, not through experience. Is that a question or is that a statement?
No, it's my understanding of it.
Okay, rackets are behaviors that are reactionary.
Oh, they're like triggers.
Could be. And rackets are complex. They're layered. There's a reason why it, like Diaslina was asking, like, how do I get my racket? There's a couple ways you could get a racket. Nerd is just nerd. It's like tails, heads. They're not black and white, but they're kind of black and white. They're much easier for me to grasp them and for others to grasp them as well. Rackets are usually a storyline. Either a story you were told, a story you bought into, a story you made up in reaction to something else, and then we run them. We run them like they're the truth. We run them like they're our storyline. We run them like they're the only way that life really is. We run them like they are the lens that we look out of, and there's no other way to look at something. That's a behavior. It almost becomes our personality, depending on how deeply entrenched we are in the racket.
Maybe like one is more subconscious than the other, or at least one becomes subconscious. The other one, the nerves, we can always choose consciously in and out of them, and the other ones, they can get under the waterline so much that we get on.
Maybe. I mean, I would be really thoughtful that we don't want to say like, oh, I have no choice. My racket's my racket.
Yeah, no, of course,
And it's like, it's, I'm a submarine buried deep. Like I want us to be really careful that we don't go there. But what I think about rackets is I think rackets have more psychology in them and nerds are just your person. It's the humanness of you. Just like your way of being and your contract is your humanness. It's your essence. Go ahead, Diaslina. You're muted, honey.
I say that it's a human flesh that has thoughts automatically.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not who I am, and it's like all the time.
Right.
Does your contract ever change?
No, your contract doesn't change like the color of your eyes. You are who you are. You be who you be. Yes. Contract was soul birth. And the more connected you are to your contracts, the more you be your contract, the more you have access to other ways of being that are ways of being that would be soul-based. Okay, excuse me for 1 second.
Wow, this is really profound, to say the least.
Yeah, rackets are heavy movers. They're like backhoes. They're like diggers, for sure.
Wow.
Okay, so how do you guys feel now about this conversation on rackets? Are you clear on what they are? And yep. Have you identified a racket that you run?
That's just the way I am.
What, Sharon? What is it?
I become very protective against what they're saying. And I find myself in another realm of defending why I do what I do or who I am being in this moment.
Great. So which racket is that?
To the point of getting angry, to the point of losing it, that I'm defending this thing so strongly and so greatly.
Okay, great. So got it. So which racket is that? Is it victim, controlment, judgment, or powerlessness?
Sounds like all of them.
Could be, exactly. And that's what Julie was saying. We could have a double-decker sandwich. When you find, so this is the key, guys. You get to recognize what racket you run. We usually have a default racket. You get to recognize what racket you run. And Sharon, you use the word defensiveness, which could be any of the above. It could be any of the 4 primary rackets. You can tell, right? Can you guys tell that if I was feeling like a victim, I'd be like, but, and defend it. Right? Or if I was running the controlment racket, I could get defended like, I have a right to be this angry, Now I'm running a controlment racket. They both sound like defensiveness, but which racket is it? It matters because if you're running more than one racket, you are piled high and deep under your own tender spot. And that matters because if we don't get under, until we get under what's running the racket, we will continue to run the racket from an unconscious place. It'll be a guttural, reactionary, instead of let me look at this and transform it so that the racket no longer has to be what I lead with, right? That would look like I'm in a conversation now, and instead of running a victim racket and sounding defensive or running a right-wrong racket and getting defensive, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to be that because what's under it and what comes up, I can be present to. So does everybody here recognize what racket you run? Have you identified your racket?
I got it now.
Okay.
I got it now. So,
Okay.
so you say that the racket is reactionary, it reacts, and it's we get to look underneath to the root underneath to what is it to resolve it for ourselves, people. One thing that I see, you mentioned something about angry. So I see before I would not allow myself like give permission to be angry at things that happen, but and now lately I say, yes, I can express that action was, I am angry at those actions that were not good. So it's a completely different when I run in a racket, like just angry and fighting, or when I am consciously and I say, that was cruel, that I'm angry at that thing. And I express that rather than keep it, rather than suppress. Because before I want to not allow myself to be angry at things, because I was thinking before that was okay, but that's how I learned that is not, and it is, and now I know that it's not okay. Now I'm angry at those things and keep it in here. So when you say angry, that's what I got, that part.
Okay.
I start running a racket in the story, and I realized those triggers relate back to my mother many times, depending on the personality that I'm dealing with.
So Sharon, which racket do you run?
When I do that, defense,
The defensiveness isn't a racket. Which one of the 4 rackets do you run?
I guess it would be defending my victimhood.
So which one of the 4 rackets that we outlined last week is the question. Which one of the 4 rackets do you run? We talked about it just moments ago, that defensiveness could be any one of the 4. So which one is it when you get defensive?
You're talking about victim, powerlessness, helplessness.
Well, not this. Victim, the 4 that Sabina outlined. Share real quick the 4 rackets.
Victim, control, judgment, or power. I'll go slow. Victim, control, judgment, powerless. Powerless.
Those are the 4. So when you're defensive, Sharon, which one of those is your racket?
I think it's trying to get control of the conversation and shift it.
Could be.
Victim, you're not going to victimize me like I was victimized as a child. I'm standing up and I'm going to take back my victimhood.
Yep. So it could be controlment, domination for sure. It could also be judgment. The key here is that you get to find out which one is first.
How can it be judgment?
They're wrong. When someone comes at me talking such and such, they're wrong. I'm going to dominate and make sure nothing happens there. That's 2 rackets stacked. Okay, I'll come back to you, Sharon. Sabina, what was yours?
I think it's control, sometimes in combination with judgment, like my way or the highway. That's a bit like, yeah.
Well, my way or the highway is still controlment. Judgment is, what the hell are you doing? That's wrong. It's got to be this way.
Yeah, but I do run judgment, I think. I run judgment. I'm judgmental.
Okay, which one comes first? Which racket do you run first?
Control.
What does it look like when you're running a controlment racket?
That I get to determine how things happen, or how things are going to be done, or how is the sequence of events, or I have a need to have a plan, or the analyzer in me is like, okay, this is how we are going to do this in control.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So yours looks like controlment. It's got to be my way or the highway. This is how it's going to roll out. One thought here, guys. Be really careful that we're not adding who we be into our racket as an explanation. So analyzer, that doesn't mean that you run rackets because you're an analyzer. Okay, so just be really careful about that, because we don't need to throw ourselves under the bus while we're in a tender moment. Okay, cool.
Thank you for pointing.
It look like to mix the 2.
Mix which 2, Julie?
Mix who we are with the racket, confuse who we are with the racket.
You mean who our operating system is?
Yeah, what you just said. What does it look like?
Sabina just said it. I'm an analyzer. It's got to be this way.
Oh, okay, I missed that bit. Okay.
And that's not, there's nothing wrong with analyzer. We need analyzers in the room. Are you kidding me? How is anybody getting anything done on time? Analyzer works. We haven't talked operating systems yet, but keep in mind, guys, that there's a very pure, like, essence of your operating system. Like, there's a pure essence of your contract, and there's an imbalanced version of an operating system. Like, there's the nerd part of your contract, the other side of the coin. So what I hear when folks run judgment rackets is they're judging who they be. They're like self-attacking first before they attack everyone else. Don't do that. Your operating system, there's nothing wrong with it unless you're running it in balance. There's nothing upsetting about your operating system. We need them. Okay, awesome, Sabina. Thanks for letting me forward you on that way. Julie, are you clear now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So who else? Let me hear what you recognize as your primary racket.
My primary racket is control. And when I don't have control, then it goes into judgment. Right?
Okay, cool. Okay, good. So you recognized your sandwich stack. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So
that's my thing.
when you run a controlment racket, what does it sound like? Or
So I was looking at some of the ways it can look like hiding for me, which is interesting that I wrote down that is a control. I pull back, I hide, I avoid, I refuse to show up. If it's not going to be how I want it to be, and if you're not listening, then I'm pulling back, right? And that one just, boy, talk about a tender spot. Like it's making me feel, I know it's making me feel a little weepy that like, oh boy, prices we pay.
Yeah.
And then if it isn't control, then it's like, what were they thinking? Why are they thinking? Then I lapse into the judgment of why it's not, I don't have control over it. So then I judge for people having something other than what I want it to be, manipulating what I want it to be.
Okay, awesome. Great. So just like Sharon, just like Sabina, just like me, when we recognize our quick second racket, what my experience is as a coach is that we tend to spend more time there. And that is the sesame seeds on top of the bun. It's not even the meat of the sandwich. So awesome that you recognize you go from 1 to second in 0.60. Cool. Focus on the first one. The first one is the tender spot that you double, triple stacked your sandwich to protect. And if we don't get to the tender spot, we'll just keep stacking rackets until we get to the meat of it. So cool, Lori, that you recognize what your second one is. My invitation for all of us is to work with the first one. Work with the first one next, and we're going to walk through how to do that. Okay.
Yeah, real quick. It's interesting that you said that because I find myself being in like this whole weekend. I'm like, whoo, girl, you're in judgment. You are in judgment because I don't feel like I have any control over some situations. And then as Sabina was saying, what's the question? Am I surrendering? Hell no. Hell no, I'm not. There was no surrender. So thank you, Gina, for like digging deep into the first one. It's like, oh, I don't want to dig deep into surrender.
And that's because there's a tender spot there. So we'll walk through how to get to surrender instead of just muscling through it. Selena, Julie, did you guys share your rackets? What you recognize as your primary racket?
No, not yet. So I see from the 4 is the victim.
Victim. Okay. What does your victim racket sound like, Selena, when you run it?
I see that I fight to defend when people say something, especially people close to me. If they say something, I feel instead of speak up or let that go. Sometimes what I do is I victimizing myself for what they say and I fight back to them.
Okay, so fighting back is a second racket.
Yeah, I see this is the victim and the powerless. Yeah.
When you fight back, Selena, what does that sound like? You allow yourself to feel victimized by what someone...
Yeah, but now I'm aware sometimes because I had it like the story about I am unwanted. So if they say something that triggers me in the past, I will fight back.
So hold on. Nobody says anything that triggers us ever.
Okay.
Okay, so interesting. You're right. You got it. Probably your victim is like right there. As soon as we say they triggered me, I'm powerless or I'm a victim.
I get triggered.
Yeah, exactly. My trigger says hello, not they did something to me. They did something to me is victim or it could be powerlessness. Depends on how it rolls out. So cool. You recognize that. So you identify as a victim, you said. And when someone says something to you, you respond back by what? By defending it or?
Defending myself, fighting back. Mm-hmm.
Fighting back about what?
They shouldn't treat me that way. They shouldn't say those things to me.
Okay. They shouldn't say those things to me. Okay.
That's not the way you treat me.
Okay. That sounds like it's still victim.
Don't tell me like that. You should never treat me like that.
It could be victim. It could be going into judgment that they're wrong for what they've said instead of I'm running a victim racket. It's got nothing to do with them.
Yeah, because it's I got triggered and I go to the same spot to because
Right.
I got triggered for what they say.
Exactly. So my invitation for you is to identify which is the racket, the primary racket, and it sounds like it's victim. And so the question then is not what is your response to that outwardly in your defensiveness, but what is your story that you're telling yourself when your victim racket starts running? What's that dialogue about?
They treat me like that because I am unwanted. They treat me like that because they don't care about me.
Okay. So, and it sounds like you're, again, there's two rackets very close next to each other.
Yeah,
They're-
the victim, and then after the victim is powerless. Like,
Actually, after victim, what it sounds like is judgment.
yeah. I used to, I was like self-judgment before, like you had no idea. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're still there. I get to be right about how unwanted I am. As long as you're right about something, someone else is wrong. As long as they're wrong about what they've said, you're right. That's judgment. That's right, wrong.
Yeah, I feel like the unwanted possible defending that I want to be likable, and then, yeah.
Okay, so victim first, and then a close second with at least one other. Sounds like you do the triple decker, but you get to recognize what's the primary one. The primary one is where the tender spot is. So Dioselina, it sounds like for you, that one's victim.
The victim and the judgment to what you said, yeah.
There's only one that's the primary. Primary means one.
Was the victim. That was the victim.
Victim is your first one?
That
Your-
was,
The first one that runs? Okay, cool. Awesome. Julie, what about you? What racket are you entertaining these days?
Yeah. So actually, that was a question. Like we agree that like our primary can change over in periods of time, right? Yeah. So the whole time everyone is talking, it's like, yeah, that's me too, and that's and this one too, and this one too. It's like, oh, which one is first? Oh, but she cannot be egg. So I think I would say it's probably judgment. I would think these days.
Okay, what does it sound like?
It sounds like this is not. It sounds like this is not right. This is not right. It's not like, oh, she's wrong. Like even like it could be that, but it could be like circumstances. This is not right. This shouldn't be that way. Yeah, this is not right. Like the state of the world, what people, and like on more personal levels is like, maybe tinges of like, I can't believe she's doing this or not doing that, he or she, whatever. So because I'm thinking, because like, me, like, control is always there somewhere, but I think it's like the judgment comes first, and then based on that, it would go either victim or control.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Awesome, you guys. Great that you recognized it. And you know what she sounds like. Cool. Here's my invitation to you. Take pen to paper right now. And just briefly, what is the risk or the issue that you're seeing before the racket starts racketing? So Julie, when this isn't right, what does that mean? What's the problem with this not being right? Sabina, it's got to be this way. I want it to be this way. What happens if it's not? What's the fear about if it's not my way, this will happen?
not safe.
So Dioselina, we're just going to journal for 2 minutes.
What was the question, Gina, please?
To ask yourself the question, what is the risk, or what do you think would happen if whatever the fear is or the response that your racket is covering? Okay, just begin to wrap that up and come back to it. We're going to workshop with it for a minute.
So what I came up with, which wasn't what I thought would come up, so that's always wildly interesting, which is why I'm having this reaction, because I'm like, oh, that's not the control. That's not what I thought.
Yep.
Everywhere. Jesus. I know what my control is until there's something up. Wait. Okay, so the risk that I'm seeing, or what if because mine's control, what if it's not this way?
Mhm.
What came up is like, oh, well, then what if I'm wrong? Well, what if I'm wrong? And I'm like, oh, well, maybe something bad might happen. Well, what is that something bad? What is that? And I'm like, my decisions will make me sad or will cause harm to someone else. And I was like, what is even that about? Because I don't know if that to be true, but there's something there.
Yeah, for real. Okay, beautiful. Awesome awareness. Hang tight. Sabina, what came up for you?
That it will, if I'm not in control and determining how it will happen, then it will not be done properly or not well enough. it has to be really done very well in my own eyes, by
Okay.
myself as also by others. And for example, what came up was, for example, if we visit a new city, and we are doing sightseeing, and I'm like, I have a plan that we get to see all the highlights. I mean, if it's not all the highlights, then I missed out on something, and I don't want to miss out. So I get to do the whole plan.
Okay. And what happens if you miss out on something? What does that mean?
Yeah, it means that I didn't follow my plan. I didn't enough.
Well, what if you don't have a plan and then you miss out on something? What does that mean?
That I
Why-
have not been a good girl. I have not followed the plan.
So if you're not a good girl, and you would know that you're not a good girl because you didn't have a good enough plan or a plan or any plan, what does that mean then if you're on vacation, you don't see all the things and you're not a good girl? What does that mean? What happens?
Then I'm a bit frustrated. Then but you mean like what would be the consequence of that, right? Nobody's going to beat me or so, or in that sense, is that what you mean?
What would be the consequence of you not being a good girl?
Then I'd be doing what is expected
And if you're
from my
not doing what's
father.
Yeah. So when you didn't do what was expected with your father, what happened?
I usually did.
But what if you didn't? What was the fear that you were carrying by not doing right by your father?
That he wouldn't appreciate me, that I can't say he wouldn't love me, but he wouldn't appreciate it. He wouldn't like say, okay, this is good. It was really like right or not right.
So it's conditional love. Okay. So then it is loss of love. If you don't do it exactly right and you're not a good girl, the threat of loss of love could take you down. Is that resonating with you?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the tender spot, Sabina.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Lori, for you, what you shared with us is your tender spot is what if you hurt someone?
Yeah, I just wrote down a couple extra things. I'm like, yeah.
Do you want to share them?
So it's being very present with me, with my mom lately, but it doesn't, like, obviously it's not just with her. She's bringing it forward that my decisions about her health, if I'm wrong, will kill her. Not entirely true. Probably not true at all. Well, maybe I don't know, right? And actually, I do know. I wrote not true. And if I surrender that there are other people, so here comes the support element. I'm not in this alone. There's other people to support me. So, and us. So that's.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And there are other people is also jumping to the solution, which is good. I'm glad you found that there's an answer for you there. And what we want to get to with our rackets is what's that pain point underneath it that's making this whole thing swirl in the first place.
I love that I skipped the step, right? We're talking about tender. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't skip it, but you were like, just toe into the water for a second. Let's go over here on the dry land, which is normal. But here's the key though, guys, when we don't get clear and present with that tender spot underneath it, we will bounce racket to racket to racket to racket, because that tender spot is what's starting the whole thing in the first place. My unlovability, my threat of abandonment, my fear that I'll hurt someone and the consequences will be dire. And then what will that mean? You said, Lori, if I make the wrong decision, if I'm not right, my decisions could kill her. Dramatic. But what's underneath it is sadness around.
What popped up was this idea of being sad and being alone.
Right. That's the tender spot under the racket. The details, whether it's your mom or a colleague or a spouse.
Yep.
The details around them all can shift person to person, exchange to exchange. The tender spot's always the same, right? So really valuable, guys, to get to that tender spot, to just keep burrowing down. Watch yourself from jumping from plate to plate. Just burrow down, get to the meat of that sandwich. Hand on heart. I'm okay. I'm okay. All is well. I'm okay. All is well. Even if. I'm okay. All is well. Even if. That's the moment to really tap in and be with yourself, because until that tender spot is loved up on, we will continue to run the racket, which is the cover up for the tender spot to begin with. Unless you recognize the tender spot and love on her, there will be a racket running, or two or three. And we've talked a lot in the container about what are the prices you pay for running the racket. You could get clear on the prices and still run them if the tender spot hasn't been salved. So my invitation for you is to get there find out what that is and love up on her. Is this supporting you? Is this supportive to hear this? Okay, great. It's, yeah, we got real tender just now. So good. So I'm glad that you found that. Beautiful. And then you can get to, what do I do with it? What do I do with it that's not racketing? In order to know what to do with it, you must know what the it is. Otherwise, we just keep flailing rackets to try to prove ourselves into whatever or out of whatever.
Yeah, my brain's bouncing around between, but it could be racket. I'm like, whoa, stay here.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's the work. Just recognizing that you're running them, which is how we started. Just recognizing that you're running them is a gigantic step. That's the awareness of our behavior. Rackets are behaviors, which like we've said. Then recognizing that I could toggle and bounce from one to another or stack them real close, bury that tender spot deep down under several different layers, also worthwhile to notice. Cool. And then stay with it until you find the tender spot. That tender spot can only be healed and loved on by you. There will never be an external source that navigates that tender spot, in my experience. You can share it with someone else, of course. Vulnerability always works. Intimacy works. Connection works. You can always share it, and it'll never be healed or loved up on by an external source. It's an inside job. As within, so without. If my rackets are loved up on, my loving way of being will show up on the outside. And when my loving way of being shows up on the outside, then people are loving back to me. And then I'm not triggered by what they did. See how it goes? So the tender spot gets to be loved up on by you. You must find it first to know what it is. And I don't know if that tender spot ever gets wiped off the map. I don't know for sure. I don't know that it matters. But what I know is that I get to still stay present to her in case she's still there. And love up on her when she shows up, if she should show up, instead of run a racket and make a mess out of my life and every freaking relationship I have by avoiding whatever I need in that moment. Is that resonating with you?
This is huge. Thank you, Lori, for being there so I can see myself. Yeah, so I see one, like when the victim, it was huge. I see that if I were stopped, this is what meant like victimizing myself, and I learned this from my mother. So when Lori was sharing, what am I thinking if I think differently about men? If I think for myself that it's a different type of man. And what I was thinking, that I was going to betray my mom and she's not going to like me.
Wow.
But I learned like the way she was treated, and also thank God I've been healed for a lot of trauma that when I was in her wound, the things that did happen, and it was for being abused for men and rape and a lot of ugly things. And I was attracting those type of men in my relationship. And now when she say like, what am I thinking if I think the men are different and I can be treated completely different? My mom, I going to disappoint her. She's not going to want me. And I'm afraid how she's going to react. And I remember an incident that 4 years old, she was not home and my father wanted to beat me and I didn't let him. And my mom came home, and when she came home, I was terrified and afraid and hiding. I couldn't sleep. And she was saying like, oh, poor my husband, that Dioselina gave him a trouble, that poor my husband. And she was defending his behavior that he was chasing me, attacking me to beat me. And she didn't say anything about me, anything like how you feel, how was it? What happened when she was not there, and it's like, oh, that's how it is. Men has to treat you that way, and I was fighting not to be a victim, but at the same time, this brain or this what you say the root. I mean, what was underneath, like really real deep. It was that the fear of disappointing my mom, and also the father treat her like that way, and then the husband. So I was going to be completely. It's like I was going to betray her and she was not going to want me. She doesn't want me. And I was making myself thinking that that's the only type of man that exists. But it was covered up. I'm afraid of my mom not wanting me.
I'm glad that you found that, Dioselina. So you get to go into those questions that you asked about your mom and then answer them for yourself. Keep going with that. It's brilliant that you found that you were in both situations. There was a no win for you. So that would make sense why you would stack rackets so close together. keep going with this writing exercise because I think there would be tons of value for you. I'm glad that there was some powerful awarenesses around the table today. That is brilliant and beautiful. I don't know if this is happening in this moment, but I just want to remind all of you that I'm available for one-on-one coaching if that's what would serve you. And whatever you're up to right now, you get to keep going. And we're going to come back and do one more piece on rackets next week because they're powerful, and it is powerful. So if you feel like the earth moved, exactly, that means you were up to good stuff today, and it's exactly what we intended. If this was valuable for you and you know of other leaders that it would also be valuable for, I again thank you in advance for inviting them. All are welcome, and we all get to be in our leadership. So thank you for spreading the word and for your energy exchanges and for just being in your leadership. It's lights me up every week to be with you guys. So thank you for also staying an extra couple minutes while we wrap up here today, and we'll see you guys in another week. Okay, bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.